If you're a Jeep owner, chances are you live for the adventure. But what happens when an adventure you didn't sign up for pops up on your dashboard? I'm talking about the error code P2872. It can be a real headache, but don't you worry. In this explainer, we are going to crack this code together, step by step.
You know that feeling, right? You're just cruising along, everything's fine, and then, boom, that little check engine light flicks on. It's an instant mood killer, and your mind just starts racing. But what if I told you that light isn't a problem, but actually the first clue in a mystery that you can totally solve?
So what is this P2870 code trying to tell us? The official name is K1 Clutch Unwanted Closing. Okay, what on earth does that mean? Well, in plain English, there's a specific clutch in your transmission, the one that handles your odd gears, like first, third, and fifth, and it's basically getting stuck. It's not opening and closing the way it should, and that can really mess with your Jeep's performance.
All right, first rule of thumb when this light comes on. Don't panic. I know it's easier said than done, but really, this code is just your Jeep pointing you in the right direction. So we're going to approach this like detectives, okay? We're on a case, and I'm going to be your guide through the whole investigation.
Every good detective story starts by lining up the usual suspects. And in the case of our P2872 mystery, we've got four main players that could be causing all this trouble. Let's meet them. Here's our lineup. The culprit could be hiding in the transmission's hydraulic system, or it could be a straight-up mechanical issue. Then there's the brain of the operation, the Transmission Control Module, or TCM. And finally, we have a very specific component called the odd clutch solenoid valve. Our job? Figure out which one is guilty.
Let's kick off our investigation with suspect number 1. We're going to start gathering clues from what is honestly one of the most common causes of this problem, the transmission's hydraulic system.
You can think of the hydraulic system as the lifeblood of your transmission. It uses pressurized fluid to get things moving, to engage those clutches. So it makes sense that if your fluid is low or if there's a leak somewhere, the system just doesn't have the muscle to do its job right, and that can definitely cause our odd clutch to act up. It's always the best place to start looking.
So what's your first move, detective? First, you're going to want to get under your Jeep and just look around. See any reddish fluid leaking? Any drips or wet spots around the transmission? A simple visual check can tell you a ton. Second, you'll want to take a closer look at that odd clutch solenoid valve, since it's a huge part of this system. But don't worry, we'll dive deeper into that specific part in a bit.
Okay, so what if the hydraulic system gets a clean bill of health? No leaks, fluids topped up? Well, our investigation is far from over. It's time to follow the trail to our next two suspects, the physical parts of the transmission and its electronic brain.
Sometimes the problem isn't about the fluid, it's about the hardware. You could be looking at an internal mechanical failure, a worn-out part, something bent or broken inside the transmission that's physically stopping the clutch from working right. This is a more serious suspect for sure, but one we absolutely have to consider.
Now for this one, unless you're a seasoned mechanic with a fully stocked garage, this is probably where you call for backup. A professional can get inside the transmission and really inspect the clutch components. If they find that things are just too worn out, a replacement might be the only way to close this case for good. All right, our third suspect is a tricky one because it might not be a physical problem at all. The Transmission Control Module, or TCM, is literally the computer that runs the show. It tells your transmission when to shift, what to do. It's the boss. And if that computer has a glitch, it could be sending out bad signals or even throwing up a false error code. So how do you investigate the TCM? Well, you'll need an OBD2 scanner. Plug it in and see if any other error codes pop up along with the P2872. Sometimes a group of codes can point directly to a faulty TCM, and if that's the case, the module itself will probably need to be replaced. And that brings us to our final and very common suspect, the odd clutch solenoid valve itself. Think of this little guy as an electronic gatekeeper. It's a valve that opens and closes really fast to let that hydraulic fluid flow, which is what tells the clutch to engage. If that gatekeeper gets stuck, or if the electrical signal telling it to open fails, the clutch won't work, and bam, you get the P2872 code. Now, here's the good news. This is a step a lot of you can handle at home. With a simple tool called a multimeter, you can test the electrical resistance of the solenoid. If that number is way off from what the manufacturer says it should be, well, you found your culprit. And thankfully, swapping out this valve is often a pretty straightforward and affordable fix. Okay, we've investigated all our suspects. We have gathered the clues. Now it's time for the big reveal. Let's put it all together and officially solve the case of the P2872 code. So let's recap the game plan. If you think it's the hydraulic system, you're on your back looking for leaks. If you're worried it's mechanical, you're on the phone with a pro. If the TCM is looking shady, you're plugging in a scanner. And if all signs point to that solenoid valve, you're breaking out the multimeter. See, every suspect has a clear path to a solution.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This is the key takeaway, pulled directly from our source material. Jeep owners can easily identify and fix the issue caused by code P2872. This isn't some impossible puzzle that only a master mechanic can solve. It's a process, and it's a process you can follow.
So what this really all means is that you are now equipped. You're empowered. You know what the code means, you know the 4 main suspects, and you have the exact steps to investigate each one. You've gone from the confusion of a warning light to the clarity of a plan.
That check engine light is no longer a reason to panic. It's a starting point. It's a clue. And with the knowledge you have now, you have the power to follow that clue, solve the mystery, and get your Jeep running the way it was meant to. So the only real question left is, are you ready to get back on the road?